Welcome back to week 9 of the DSR channel, and they just released the new book, Forgotten Realms: Heroes of Faerun, and I've been going over it, pouring into it. I've been so excited for this. This is the first expansion, rules expansion and content expansion with player options since the core rule books, the 2024 core rule books released. So it's been a while, and I'm going to go into the subclasses now, and I'm going to do the Moon, College of the Moon subclass for bards. And this one is pretty cool. I like the flavor. It's very interesting, very kind of Celtic flavor. Now, I didn't read the Moonshade Isle novels, and so I don't know a lot of that lore. But I still think this is very flavorful, very interesting, and it adds a different kind of element to it. This is going to be like the best healing bard class. If you want to be a bard but a really strong healer still, this is the subclass for you. There are a couple of things could have been tweaked up, but I don't think this is going to be disappointing overall as a subclass. Little flavor text, College of the Moon Bard. Inspire allies with primal tales. The College of the Moon traces its origins to the ancient druidic circles of the Moonshade Isles, who entrusted the first bards of this tradition with chronicling the stories of the islands and their people. Bards of this college draw from the Isles' fey magic and the primal power of the Moonwells to bolster their allies, protect the natural world, and inspire their bardic works. At level 3, they start off strong with Moon's Inspiration. The primal and ever-changing power of the moon flows through you, granting you the following benefits. Inspired Eclipse. When you take a bonus action to give a creature a bardic inspiration die, you can have the invisible condition and teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space you can see as part of that bonus action. This invisibility lasts until the start of your next turn and ends immediately after you make an attack, deal damage, or cast a spell. So this is yet another subclass teleporting feature. Although this one adds in the invisible condition, which like the Archfey Warlock subclass gets at higher levels, and you're getting this right at level 3. So you're starting off strong. This is pretty nice because if you are trying to be a backline character, which this subclass is all about being, a healer. So you're kind of a backliner, and you're not going to have medium armor proficiency, shield proficiency, a lot of things like that. So you're going to be, probably a backline unless you multi-class. So having the ability to like use your action to do something useful, cast a concentration spell, something like that, and then bonus action, inspire an ally, and then the added benefit of teleporting and turning invisible till the start of your next turn is going to be great, right? That doesn't take concentration, which means you can keep concentrating on your big action spell, which could be a control spell. You don't have to have your action be a heal spell. So you could be concentrating on control spell and then popping out healing word. Probably not healing word because then you need your bonus action to do this. Cure wounds, mass cure wounds, things like that, and then pop invisible after using this ability. So that's really strong. Second part of this feature is Lunar Vitality. Once per turn, when you restore hit points to a creature with a spell, you can expend a Bardic Inspiration die and increase the amount of hit points restored by a number equal to the roll of the Bardic Inspiration die. The creature's speed also increases by 10 feet until the end of its next turn. This one's interesting. It's a little bit more healing, and it's only one creature that's healed by your heal spell. Unfortunately, it's not like increase the entire healing of the spell. So if you did a mass cure wounds or a mass healing word, you're not buffing all of the heal with this. It's just one creature that's healed by your spell. It doesn't say that it requires that the spell you expend a spell slot. So you could use this with like a healing word you get from Magic Initiate or something like that, which is a little nicer. It's still going to be, I think, disappointing a lot of the time. And I wish they had done, since you're expending a resource, right? If this were just a free D6 all the time, I think it would be okay. I think it'd be fine, right? The Alchemist Artificer gets their intelligence bonus to the entire healing roll for everybody, which is stronger. The Life Cleric adds the 2 plus the spell slot or spell level to the healing, the entire result of the healing, which is even more than what the Alchemist is getting, and both of those are more than this. And it's going to feel really, and those are resource free. Like you're not expending your channel divinity to get that. You're not expending an infusion or something to get that. You just get that for free. So this one's a bit weak, and when you expend that Bardic Inspiration and roll like a 1, it's going to feel pretty bad. Now, at least you're also boosting their movement speed by 10, but that's not always needed. If you could do this as a reaction, maybe on a first run, I don't know. This part's weak, and yeah, that's a little bit of a bummer. Now, don't forget though that when you get at level 5, Font of Inspiration, they changed how this works, or rather added to it, because it always gave you the ability to refresh or recharge all of your Bardic Inspiration dice on a short or long rest. But they added this clause in 2024, the second part, which says, in addition, you can expend a spell slot, no action required, to regain one expended use of Bardic Inspiration. So if you want to do this Inspired Eclipse, teleporting around even more, you simply need to expend a first level spell slot and you can do it again. So you get, yeah, I don't know, you can do this a dozen times and all you're expending is low level spell slots. That's super powerful. You could basically do this every single round of combat for the whole day. Once you hit like level, I don't know, 5, 7, maybe 9, depends on different things and how much you're expending spell slots. But you could be doing this all the time. So that's really powerful multiplied by this ability. But wait, there's more. Also at level 3, you get Primal Lore. You learn Druidic and one cantrip from the Druid spell list. It counts as a Bard spell for you, but doesn't count against the numbers of cantrips you know. And whenever you gain a Bard level, you can replace this cantrip with another cantrip of your choice from the Bard spell list. Great. Additionally, you learn one of the following skills: Animal Handling, Insight, Medicine, Nature, Perception, or Survival. You have proficiency in that skill. So that is a lot of the skills from the Druid skill list, plus one Druid cantrip, plus the Druidic language. This is great. And as I understand it, I'm not an expert on real world lore, but as I understand it, the origins of the bards actually is Celtic, and they were involved, intertwined with the Celtic druids. So I love that they're bringing that together and making this a druidic bard and leaning into the moon concepts. You've got the moon, although you're not shape changing like a moon druid, but moon is very, very druid in nature, and you're getting a druid cantrip. You're going to be able to speak the language that the druids speak, and you're getting one of these skills. I think a lot of people call this a ribbon feature. I think cantrips are awesome. I love cantrips. I love languages, so that's great. And I love additional skill proficiencies, which I, as a DM, call for skill proficiencies all the time, right? Survival, heavily used. Perception, heavily used. Nature, heavily used. Insight, heavily used. The ones I probably use the least, that I call for least out of these, is Animal Handling and Medicine, which don't come up every session, but those tend to be things driven by the player characters. Everything else, I'll call for one of these per session easily, if not multiple of those. Certainly perception checks, right? And survival checks. I call for lots of those. So I think this is great. Great ability. Love to see it here. 6, you get Blessing of Moonlight. You always have the Moonbeam spell prepared, which is cool because it's not on the Bard spell list. And it's a decent spell. When you cast Moonbeam, you can modify the spell so that you glow faintly while the spell is active. While glowing, you shed dim light out to 5 feet. And whenever a creature fails its saving throw against the effects of this Moonbeam, another creature of your choice that you can see within 60 feet of yourself, not the target, regains 2d4 hit points. Once you use this feature to modify a casting of Moonbeam, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. So this one's interesting. I would say it's both better and worse than probably what you think initially. Because initially you see that 2d4 hit points and you think, oh, that's like a small amount of hit points, like that's lame. But remember, it says whenever a creature fails its saving throw. So every time a creature fails its saving throw, which presumably you're trying to hit multiple per turn on your turns or on their turns, that triggers every single time, okay? And Moonbeam was modified so that when it moves, it travels, right? So if there's like a line of 10 goblins, you can take your magic action to move it 60 feet along that line of goblins, and it doesn't matter where it ends up. As long as you move through their space on that turn, it triggers on every single one of them. Now, they only make the save once per turn, so you can't move it back and forth across them in the same turn. But once, you can hit all of them. And if all 10 goblins fail, you trigger this heal 10 times. So that's not 2d4 hit points, that's 20d4 hit points restored. And you can give those all to one character, one of your allies, which would be, 50 hit points if you did 20d4? Yeah, 50 hit points restored. And it's going to be very close to 50, right? With that number and such a small die, you're probably going to get right around 50 hit points restored to an ally. So that's going to be some big healing that you can do right at level 6. Now, the downside to me is that the Moonbeam spell is okay, not great. So the upsides are they did make the modifications that I mentioned in the 2024 rules, but the radius is small, which most of the time is probably a good thing because Moonbeam has friendly fire. So if you move it through your ally spaces, they have to make the save and take damage as well. And even if they save, they take half damage. So it has friendly fire. So you actually want that probably smaller radius just so it's easier to position. But there's still going to be scenarios where if your frontline allies and the enemies have all kind of like locked in and interspersed, like they're all mixed up together, it's going to be really hard to position the spell to do damage at all. And because of the small area, it's not like you have a lot of chance of just say leaving it someplace and hitting and damaging them over and over. It doesn't cause difficult terrain. And so, any enemy who gets hit by it, and if you leave it on them, they are going to easily move out of it. The only way they're not going to move out of it is if you have multiple slowing effects, or they're grappled, restrained, or difficult terrain plus slowing effects, right? Because no matter where they are, they only need 5 feet of movement to get out of it. Like that's the maximum they need. So you'd have to reduce their movement to 0 for them to be stuck in it. So, and the only way, and if they move out of it, the only way you're dealing damage with it now is you have to take another one of your actions to move it again. And its damage isn't great, right? Like it would be better, like a spell like that could continue to do damage without using your action is far better than this, right? Because you cast it once, use one action, it's got your concentration, but then it's continuing to do damage like a summon, right? A summon is going to keep moving around the battlefield and attacking, attacking, attacking. You don't have to use your action anymore or your concentration, right? And it can keep attacking with this, and then you can keep doing on later turns, use your action to cast cantrips at least. And so now you're doing damage in addition to the summon, right? With this, it's probably not going to do anything from round to round or turn to turn unless you move it. So that's going to take your magic action again and then move it again. So in some scenarios, it's going to be great. If there's like mobs of enemies and you can like move it through all of them and hit a bunch of them and then proc that heal, trigger that heal. Sorry, old Warcraft days. Trigger that heal. Yeah, that's going to feel great. But when it's those times when everybody's mixed up together and you can't position it, this is going to be useless. On top of that, it's once per day. So this is going to be a cool ability once per day at level 6. It's going to feel probably pretty cool. You're probably going to stop using it as you get into higher levels. It's just not going to be worth your concentration. You have a lot better spells. And it's not something that you can just like treat like a throwaway, right? That one use per day is going to trigger people's resource hoarding instincts, which most players have. Like very rarely do I see a player who's like, yeah, I'm just firing off all my abilities as fast as I can. Most of them hoard this and they're hoping to save it for the big boss fight, which may or may not come, right? Or is this the big boss fight, or is that the big boss fight, or did I waste this? And so they're going to resource hoard this and not use it, which is unfortunate. I wish they had given it something like expend a second level spell slot to recharge your ability to do this. Then at least you could feel like, oh, I can just use it, and if that wasn't the boss fight, I'll just use it again. That would have made this a lot better, right? To be more fun for players to use, to be honest. And then the you glow part, dim light and 5 feet. I don't know. I don't get it. It's probably part of the lore of the stuff from the Moonshade Isles, probably, because that has almost no game effect, right? To dim light in a 5-foot radius. I mean, you've got the dancing light spell and dancing light cantrip and the light cantrip that are better than that. You'd have to be super desperate to need light from this. So that's got to be some sort of flavoring thing from the lore. But anyway, this is an okay ability. It doesn't scale great, and I think it's going to end up not being used a lot. So that's a little bit disappointing. This isn't the best ability, but it's not bad. But if you can hold on to level 14 and not multi-class, level 14 is a banger, okay? Eventide Splendor. You become suffused with the might of the moon, improving the moon's inspiration in the following ways. First, Shadow of the New Moon. When you use Inspired Eclipse, the creature who received the Bardic Inspiration die can also have the invisible condition and immediately take a reaction to teleport up to 30 feet to an unoccupied space it can see. The creature remains invisible until the start of its next turn. I guess they don't have to say that they add that clause about making an attack or casting a spell because they just use their reaction. So they can't really do anything else unless you're a Cavalier Fighter 18th level. Then you have multiple reactions, which you could all do while still being invisible. Yeah. Okay. Now I want to pair this with a Cavalier Fighter because that would be awesome. And Vibrance of the full moon, when you use Lunar Vitality, you can roll a d6 and use the number rolled in place of expending a Bardic Inspiration die. All right, and that's kind of what I was hoping. I was hoping they would do that earlier on, right? You know, if you're not expending a resource to do this, then it's fine, right? So finally, this ability is okay. It's not great. It's okay. And just to remind you, this is what Inspired Eclipse does, right? So if you use Inspired Eclipse with Shadow of the New Moon, both of you turn invisible and teleport. Amazing. There are not very many abilities in the game where you can teleport an ally. There's a couple. There's like one of the Eladrin phase step options is that they teleport with you, but they have to go with you, right? They have to start next to you and end next to you. Dimension Door, same thing. Start next to you, end next to you. The Scatter spell allows you to just rearrange everybody. But this is the first personal teleport where they don't have to go with you. They can go anywhere they want, right? And they get to choose. You go this way, they go that way, and you both turn invisible. That's super strong, and you can recharge it with a first level spell slot, which means you're doing this all the time. You're level 14. You've got so many spell slots. You've got like 20 spell slots. You're doing this all the time, which is just so strong. That's awesome. And I guess that's maybe why the other half of this is weak, is because the first part is so strong. So the Lunar Vitality, was you would expend a Bardic Inspiration die, roll it, add it to the healing of one creature that's subjected to the heal spell, and that one creature gets a 10-foot speed boost. So now you can do that all the time without expending a Bardic Inspiration die, but now it's a D6. If they had given you this at level 3, this would have been a pretty good ability. At level 14, it's like, okay, well, that's nice. I would probably never expend a Bard. You'd have to be really desperate to expend a Bardic Inspiration die now that you're level 14, because you could still roll a 1, right? You've got a D12, at this level, D10 Bardic Inspiration die. You can still roll a 1 on that D6, and you can still roll a 1 on that D10. And that's going to feel super bad when you expended one of your Bardic Inspiration dice to do this, which, by the way, is how you fuel your teleportation, right? You could have teleported and turned invisible, you and an ally, and instead you rolled a 1 on a heal. That's going to feel super bad. So glad that they finally added this. I wish they had added it sooner or did something like, if you're, what they should have done is, if you're going to expend a Bardic Inspiration die, when you expend it, you roll the die and add your Charisma modifier so that there's like a minimum that doesn't feel so bad, right? That would have been better. And then don't add the Charisma modifier to the Vibrance of the Full Moon effect. That one's just simply the 1d6, no Charisma modifier. But if you expend your Bardic Inspiration, add the Charisma modifier, that would have made this a decent ability. So, okay, so you end up with one banger, all in one feature, but that feature has two sub features. One of them is a banger, awesome. The other one is okay. Now it's free. You're never gonna hate that. That's a decent buff to like your healing word, your mass healing word, right? That's gonna feel pretty good. And yeah, this class is good. I like it. This is the healing focused bard. It's a druidic bard. You're going to be able to like talk behind your allies' backs with the other druid in the party. Two of you speak druidic and nobody else knows what you're saying. That's going to be some fun role play moments. And I think the flavor is good. So this is a good one. It could have been a little better, but it's not like you have any levels where it's like, oh, that whole feature is bad. Okay. Nothing like that. There's going to be some that are just stronger than others, which is okay. And yeah, I say choose this and have fun because it's probably going to be a good time. All right. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.